Okay, so One Piece, chapter 914, titled Leftover Town. The cover page this time around sees a continued venture into the lives of the Straw Hat Grand Pirate Fleet. However, this is a particularly special arc, seeing as how this seems to focus on, and we can barely see this person in it, but this person is using their left hand, and has a cloak very similar to red haired Shanks. And this person is arriving in a place called Dyed Cloth City with various flags and cloths and kites and so on and so forth hanging from this line that's just strewn out high above the city. So, a Shanks arc, maybe? Very interesting, especially considering it's still considered part of the Straw Hat Grand Pirate Fleet. So, is this telling us something about Shanks that we don't yet know? Meanwhile, we cut back to Wano Country, the Curry section, leftover town, where we see that Tama has been cured by the young lady working at the tea house. However, she then goes on to state that while she has been more or less cured of the poison, it's still in her system, and drinking any more river water will, not do her any good later down the line. We then see Zoro being treated by the young Miss Kiku, who is actually fairly tall. We didn't get a good grasp on her size since she was already next to someone who was so massive. The sumo wrestler who was trying to hit on her. However, she is quite a bit taller than Zoro and Luffy. Not like insanely tall, but just to a point where, she's at least about 9 and 10 feet, maybe a little less, maybe a little more. Meanwhile, Tama is very much not inclined to show her hunger, as she feels that it is a warrior's shame. She does not want to take in Miss Suru's food, as she feels that Suru is already struggling with her business and probably for food by herself. So, actually, ingesting this would be to take away from Suru. However, Suru absolutely insists, even goes so far as to pick Tama up by the collar and just jostle her a bit, meaning like, if you don't eat it, I'll throw it out into the street, and that would be an even bigger waste. Although we do see that Suru is a bit, famished herself, I believe. She does completely want Tama to eat because Tama is a young girl and she still needs to grow. And, malnutrition can lead to a lot of disorders and deficits for a child her age. So, eating as much as possible is a must for someone her age. So she sits in between Zoro and Luffy. It's a very cute scene where Tama is kind of talked into Luffy since he says, hey, it's your birthday. That's the time to treat yourself. You need to eat. So she does, and she is like so overjoyed by the food, and she loves it so much. Is completely like overtaking her to a certain degree, and she just smiles big, saying it's the best day ever. Luffy does ask a question that a lot of people have been wondering, especially in considering to the fact that she pops off these mochi balls off of her cheek. However, she tells Luffy that she can't ingest that and be filled by it. It doesn't really work that way. So that answers a question a lot of us have been having. So ultimately, Tama falls asleep on Kiku's lap, and Suru talks to Luffy and Zoro about the state of their country. How, because of the factories and what the workers have been doing there, it has poisoned the land, the rivers, so on and so forth. Because of the industrialization, the land has fallen into disrepair. And I feel that this is a callback to a lot of Hayao Miyazaki movies, where industrialism, especially in Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, where industrialism has more or less destroys the land. You know, that's a big selling point in a lot of Japanese stories where, the land is very sacred, and to bring industrialization and the machine contaminates it and causes the people around the factories to suffer. And, that in general is just a very big message all around. Um, Industrialization that is not kept in check just leads to ruin to a lot of people. And Suru even points out to a land where the castle of Lord Odin once stood, where there is a lot of fertile land. It is very overgrown, and to be there would be like, it's very prosperous. But that was, the castle of Odin's castle stood there over 20 years ago. And with the fall of the Kazuki clan, it's kind of gone into disrepair. With the rise of the Shogun Orochi, it's led to a lot of hardships, and he has only taken in everything just for himself and his people, leaving the scraps and the leftovers to the populace around where he lodges, meaning that only the people who are within his boundaries eat well, and only the people outside in leftover town actually just take in the scraps and buy and sell those. So it's a very unfortunate, way of living, but she elaborates that, they're fine so long as they're still alive. However, her point is exclamated by an arrow almost hitting her right in the face, if only to be stopped by Zoro's fast action of blocking the arrow. We find out this is one of the gifters, one of Kaido's men, the Batman, who has eaten the bat smile. This allowing him to turn into a half bat, kind of half Zoan. He elaborates that his hearing overheard Suru talking badly. Well, not so much even badly, she's accepted her way of life, but he finds it to be in a dishonorable speech towards the Shogun, and thus she must be killed because it can incite insurrection from his point of view. Zoro takes offense to this, in the fact that it's just like, you're trying to kill someone just because they're just talking a little bit about, their state of well-being. So the Batman starts firing upon Zoro with high-speed arrows, but Zoro manages to block each and every attack, only for us to find out it was a diversion so that Tama could be kidnapped by the gifter Gazelle Man, who is in the Gazelle Smile. And he's running off at about 200 kilometers per hour. However, Kikyu jumps onto the lion dog after grabbing a sword that was hanging out, somewhere near. I don't know if it was the sword that Luffy was carrying about, or if this is a sword that was hanging out within the tea shop. But she jumps on the lion dog, who is already chasing after Tama and the Gazelle Man. And meanwhile, Luffy, I'm seeing that he does still have the katana that he had, so it's one that she had over in the tea house. So Luffy grabs onto the lion dog. He stretches over to, hop a ride. Zoro grabs onto him, and they both come onto the lion dog in order to try to catch up with the Gazelle Man. They realize that this had to have been a planned attack, and we find out that Kikyu has a bit of a notebook where she kept detailed notes on the various goings-on within Leftover Town, noting that the only headliners within the town are Hawkins, Hold'em, and Speed. So, and it also says that there are 30 warders who have gained the mysterious powers of the synthetic mysterious fruits that they don't really know is devil fruit. So that goes on to tell you that devil fruits are very much a foreign thing within Wano country, which elaborates why Kinemon was so unknowing about his skills in terms of being able to create clothing from various objects. Um, Zoro kind of wonders as to the fact that why she has all this written down and who exactly she is, because Suru had stated that Kikyo had only been in um, Suru states that she had only been in Leftover Town for about a year, and Kikyo had only been working for her for a month, so she doesn't know everything about Kikyo. Kikyo states that she is in fact a samurai, and she proceeds to tie her hair up, ready to go into battle. Gazelle Man then reports to Lord Hold'em, who we see has the appearance of a lion or something. So he might be he is probably also a gifter with the abilities of a lion, and he is of such a high level that he has been declared a gift, a one of the headliners, I should say. And as they go forth, he proceeds into the town of Bakura, which is a land of the officials and pirates. Kikyu also relays this information to Zoro and Luffy, who have massive grins on their face, ready to throw down and cause a ruckus. Almost like clockwork, Beppo and the others report to Law, saying that Luffy has entered Bakura town, and Law loses his shit, realizing that Luffy and Zoro are going to cause a scene, which is exactly what they were told not to do within the land of Wano. So that ends the chapter with Law freaking out and being like, we gotta stop those guys. They're going to cause more trouble for us than anything else. So he's very much gotten to know the way of Luffy and the rest of the Straw Hat Pirates. So this was a fast-paced chapter, even with an elaboration and the moments with Tama. This chapter just felt like, stuff just flew. Nothing unneeded happened between here and the rest of the chapter, because we just got into everything. We just got stuck in. Tama's well again, Tama eats, Suru gives information on the state of things within Wano country, especially the section that they live in. We're introduced to Kikyu. We're introduced to the people who are kind of overlooking the various towns within Wano country, and the fact that there's a very close eye being kept on the residents, very much why Tama was even captured to begin with, because she had stated something that went against Kaido and the Shogun Orochi, so she was captured. They tried to kill Suru because of this, so they're Orochi is keeping a very close eye on the populace to make sure not even the faintest whiff of insurrection, like you even voice a little bit of displeasure towards the Shogun, and you're dead right there and then. So that shows the very dire state of the people around them, how the land is being contaminated. It feels very, I guess you could say, what's his name? Captain Planet-esque. And even Adventures of, no, not Adventures, Sad AM Sonic the Hedgehog-esque, where you have this big, time villain who's just polluting the land at will and keeping all the nice, good food and clean water to themselves, while the rest of the people live on in squalor. And as I stated before, this is shown up in various Hayao Miyazaki movies where, mostly Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind, where engineering and factories and, progress of man has done more harm to nature than anything else. The world is in balance, so to speak. So we'll see what happens when the factory is maybe brought down. You know, this is the land of both Kaido and a force that we don't know anything about relative. We don't know how many of Kaido's men are actually traveling throughout Wano country. You know, there might be more headliners around that we don't know of, because the gifters are pretty easy to take down. You know, Sanji took down one of them fairly easily. So, but people like Basil Hawkins and the other headliners, they could be very much trouble, especially since X Drake is also counted amongst one of them. So who knows when he's going to come into play. But it's nice to see Law again. How he'll be involved, if he'll actually stop Luffy and Zoro from causing a big ruckus, if they'll be able to get back Tama. You know, we'll see that in the next chapter, hopefully, and it's not on break next time, so that's good. Also, seeing Kikyu's abilities. As I stated last One Piece video, she seemed very reminiscent of Kikyu Hime, that was in a very special production that One Piece had going on, a story written by Oda about this young princess named Kikyu Hime. So I had thought that maybe she might have connection there, but Kikyu Hime did not wield a sword. She was more of a damsel in distress. So maybe that's, you know, it's more of an appearance thing, and because he had already created a kind of damsel-like character, he decided to go in the reverse direction. And I'm hoping she's very much a very proficient warrior, unlike Rebecca, who was only so good at protecting herself. Rebecca, you know, was skilled, but not skilled enough to really do anything. So I'm hoping that Kikyu Hime is a very devastating and proficient warrior, like we saw that Kinemon was. You know, Kinemon is very skilled in terms of combat. So I'm hoping that Kikyu has at least a few moves going on. But that's enough for this time. I think I've babbled on enough. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below, and leave me a like or even a dislike, whichever you so please, and subscribe for more One Piece. Things are really heating up in the land of Wano.